All right, here I have Ellie, and I have been thinking and feeling about how can I introduce you, uh, literally for the entire morning today. And then I decided because you're creative yourself, I'm going to allow spontaneity to come in and join us so we can start creating together. And I was like, of course, what else can I do to give an honor to the creative forces than to open the space enough for something spontaneously to occur and allow us to actually get guided left and right. So, hi, Ellie, welcome to the space.
Lovely to be
And
here.
I wanted to first ask you, and actually, I'm actually getting hot in my body. And usually, when I get hot and excited like this, I can sense the energies almost like heating me up underneath my skin. And I'm curious to know, how did you feel coming into this podcast, not knowing what we're going to talk about?
Love that. Um, I sometimes feel like I love the when we can have a conversation and it maybe not be so structured. I mean, I love and appreciate sometimes when I go on people's podcasts and they do send like the questions and stuff beforehand. But I also feel like you've been on my podcast isn't like that really. I
Yeah.
think sometimes we go a lot deeper when it's not so planned. There's benefits to both, but yeah.
Because there's a sense of structure, and often that sense of structure is giving the certainty to lean into. And there's a wall, and I can be held. I feel safe. I'm not open to vulnerability because I know what to expect. But there is a certain point where vulnerability actually invites the creative forces to come in and crack you up even more. So with you, this felt spontaneous for me. Not usually, I send an email. And usually I outline, okay, this is what I sense. This is intuitively what we're going to go to. And I review everything about you. But in this case, no, I actually wanted to create something and I wanted to pinpoint these moments when creation comes in. How is it felt and embodied? And with your practice of being a coach, being a teacher, an instructor for meditation, and also being a clothing designer, I am literally feeling we should dive into these creative spaces and creative essence that comes and visits you. And I'm curious to see and discuss just that. How does it feel? When does it show up? Does it require the environment for it to come in and visit you? And what is your relationship related to that essence of creation that comes and joins you?
I think for me, because I'm a creative and I'm a creative in various different ways. I mean, there was a long time in my life where my channel of creativity was creating clothing and being a fashion designer. And that was like my one point of focus, all I ever wanted in my life. And I thought that if I was not the next Alexander McQueen, I wouldn't be happy. um, and then I kind of realized through a lot of different things that I think I think a lot of creatives and a lot of the creatives that I work with feel the same way that you are just a creator. And I think that a lot of us we have one medium that we're most comfortable with. For me, because my at the moment, especially my creative life is very broad. It's not something that I can really control. It's something that is quite spontaneous. And for me, something that I have found so pivotal, especially in the last few years, is that if I think about creating something, it's not going to come. But
Yes.
if I just sit down and do it,
Mm.
something will come. That's why I love that we don't really have, the structure and the set out questions and everything for this conversation because I find with me quite often if I don't have the structure and if I don't know what's coming, I would say something that I don't even know where it's come from.
Yes.
And I love that.
I've been diving into transpersonal experiences and development, and out of simple curiosity to understand where do these forces come and land on us? Do they come from the underworlds, a lot of deep trauma work, or anything in the meditation, for example, or imagination. There's these parts of us that play a very specific role as if there are steps that we don't know for it to open us up to such experiences. And they're blissful moments, they're blitz, they're very much a flash of inspiration or idea or a magical wave that comes through us. So, out of which we now have to do something. And often we disregard it because we don't understand it. We don't know that the moment is there now. Rather, we're busy with doing something else. So, a question for you is, how often do you get these inspirative moments land on you in your conscious mind? And are you battling between doing something with it? Do you have this awareness? Do you postpone everything else for the sake of the idea and momentum that is happening spontaneously? Or do you actually grab it and practice this momentous relationship with it when it shows up?
That's a good question. And I really think that I don't have one specific answer to that, I wouldn't say. I think it really depends what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that sometimes you might get an idea and it will be in a really inappropriate time where you don't, when you're driving, for example, you can't even write it down. You like you in your because often we do get our biggest idea or best ideas when we're in those in between times. I
Mm-hmm.
always say like driving, folding laundry, or like cooking or something where your mind is quite relaxed. And you don't have a lot of distraction going on around you. You're not listening to a podcast or something else as well. Sometimes you can get an idea during those times, but sometimes not. And those kind of ideas, then I just trust that if it's meant, it will come back.
Mm,
And if it's another time, maybe where I can't act on it right then I'll write it down and then I'll come back to it another time and think, actually, that's now I want to act on it, or actually, no, that kind of sucked.
mm,
And then there are other times when I call it like it takes over your whole body. It's like when your whole body says yes to something, you just go ding, ding, ding. Like, no, this is like what I have to do now. And then you kind of go into that sort of artistic, almost like frenzy of
mm-hmm.
having to like throw ideas around. And then for me, things take a bit of time. I love to put ideas and things on the wall. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
a practice I got from my dad. My dad was very, very creative and he was a writer as well. And he would like write of all the characters in his books and like draw pictures of them, even though there weren't going to be pictures in the books, and like throw them up on the wall. And I think that that's kind of where I got that from. And then I'll throw like ideas or things that don't make a lot of sense together on a wall or on a pinboard or something, create a mood, and then eventually it will turn into what it's meant to be.
Mm. And when you notice this contact, when this shock comes in, this wave comes in into you, it's almost like it's not, it doesn't even knock. I call it, it's almost disturbing. It disturbs everything. And I really like to sense it that way. And my outlet is coming in a writing because my vocabulary completely changes. And to me, it's becoming more and more clear that the outlet for it changes my entire dictionary of the mind. I don't speak normal words. My sentences are very different. I have this, like you said, frantic, panic, manic way of moving around the body. And at the beginning of this podcast, this is how it felt too. It's like, oh my God, it's like I almost feel possessed with this like force that comes through it. So I'm curious if you can explain when this hits you, uninvited, this guest, how do you feel it? How do you recognize its strength and also power, the size, whatever, how you incorporate it or perceive it? And what will give it a chance to you? What it needs to have? What is the texture that it needs to have in order for you to give it attention?
I think like if it's one of those big ideas, and it, as I said, it kind of feels like it hijacks your whole body,
Mm,
and it's now in the driving seat, and you kind of just have to go with it. So it's like every cell of your body feels, or my body anyway, feels energized in the vision in my mind, and excited and expanded in the vision in my mind. And that's usually like the inception of the idea. That's not to say that it sticks around like that forever, because it doesn't. It kind of goes like that, and then it kind of pieces together in my mind over maybe a few days, or it could be a few hours, or it just like sort of slowly kind of forms something more external that I can think of. And yeah, I'd say that that's kind of the feeling that I get for if like I've designed a piece of clothing that's really cool that I haven't seen before, and I'm like, oh, that's wow, where did that come from? Or actually, when I first had the idea to do my podcast, it was well, it was to do it was a coaching and podcast to begin with, and now they're kind of separate entities. But when I first got the idea for that, I had been feeling really lost and really just creatively blocked for quite a long time.
Mm.
But you got to trust that, like, the more you put yourself out there and you go after inspiration by going to galleries, going out, like looking at the world in the way that the creative eye looks at the world, eventually something's going to come. And I was actually listening to a different podcast. I was about something totally unrelated. And then I was
Mm.
like, that's it. It was just like, oh my God, now everything makes it's the kind of feeling of like, now it all makes sense.
Yeah.
It's that.
So good. It's ignites. There's an ignition. How I, because I almost like had to analyze it in order to understand it and not to miss it next time, just for the sake of, oh, but these are the states that are passing through me, around me, off of me, from me, out of, and I happen to be just either on the way, in the middle of it, or at the beginning of it. So I want to learn and build a relationship with it so I can work with it as it comes. And there's this ignition that you say. It's almost like something gets ignited. And then there's this symbolism that comes. It can be in a form of imaginary. Imagination comes in and starts putting all these things in chaotic order. There's nothing left and right. So you take time for it. And then suddenly you're like, much later, it all makes sense. And it makes sense that it took this order rather than the ordinary linear way. So, what is your relationship with it? And do you have a special, almost like a ritual, that you invoke these states? You mentioned earlier there's a sense of mind being very calm in order to receive what is to come from other realms, other spaces. So, what is your relationship, and do you have the ritual that you're actually almost like bathing yourself in it and sitting out there and almost like inviting it to come in?
I wouldn't say there's like a ritual just for that. I think that to live a creative life is exactly that. You have to live in relationship with the creative energy and know that it's going to come at any point, and that is not something that it's even vaguely possible to control. I think that keeping, I think we need to remove or kind of work through stagnations within the body, because I think that when your nervous system is maybe not so receptive, sometimes it can be we get lost in fears and doubts and trying to control the experience, which actually inhibits that process from happening, that kind of um, full body yes idea, or really authentic idea from coming through, because then we start creating from the mind instead of creating from the heart. And when you create from the mind, it's only about what people want usually, or what we logically think will work. But really innovative ideas come from the heart space, and they come from the soul, and they kind of channel through that space, I believe, anyway. So for me, it's more living everything. There's no like kind of post creation. It doesn't really stop. It's the way that you're choosing to live every day. So of course, for me, that's been having a yoga practice, or having a movement practice, having a meditation practice. Breath work is a really great one. And I do sometimes some somatic practices to kind of remove blockages, or remove limiting beliefs and stuff like that, so that you don't have those fears in the way of what's going to come. Because also for creatives, we have to live outside of logic. We have to live outside of what a lot of society would expect for most of us to have, and really live in a space of surrender. Like working your hardest, of course, putting your whole self into what you're doing and really trying to bring your vision into life, but at the same time, it's surrendering to that those ideas coming and trusting that you have the talent and you have the means to create what's from your mind into reality, and for that to find the right people. And that
Hmm.
takes daily, I think, work on building the foundations of fostering or kind of nurturing that space within yourself for that to be possible.
Yeah. And you said within yourself. And this
Mm.
is like almost getting to know your powers, or I call them superpowers. Why they're super? Because they're not normal, they're not logical, and they're almost out of logic, out of standard. They're almost like they have to exit the mind. And you said that you almost have to remove your narratives that you have of what you should not. And there's this different sense that comes in, which is you touched a very, very key component that I think of the creation and the essence that comes in, which is the authenticity. And authentic expression co- creation comes as authentic self, almost out of the heart space, almost in a finite form. Is how I understood her. And I like to kind of almost personalize her as well in many ways. It's like she comes as final, and now you have to do something about it. But she also comes very original. It doesn't come as someone else's story already said or written or a painting. It comes almost this complete, utter, total symphony. And you just have to kind of put the pieces together and kind of have to really desire and have a will and love and devotion to it. So there's a special kind of relationship that is established out of the heart space, which gives you very different qualities versus competitive, racy mind that races, almost wants now gratification and satisfaction of it. So would you agree with that, or would you add something to it?
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, I agree with that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you have the idea that comes and shows up to you and you're about to create it, you said you take, special care, and you already, from what I'm hearing, is you already have established connection with your body. So do you find the idea or a magic like that, an essence coming in embodied, or does it come out of else, a space that it's not even yours in your body?
I think it really depends. Like, I think sometimes you'll get like a quite well-rounded idea come to your head or come into your awareness, I should say. But I think there's also other times when you're just sat there and playing with something. I mean, if you're a painter, it could just be you're throwing paint at something or just kind of having a play with the paints, or it could be that, that sometimes I'm more of a drawer. So sometimes I'm quite still, even now, I draw like fashion illustrations and things like that. And that's not something that's like pre-planned in my mind. It's just like being very present with what is in front of you and being able to be with what is in front of you and allow it to come out of you almost spontaneously. So it's like you're not trying to have this thing in your head and make it a reality. You're more creating as you go, and the ideas flowing out of you as you go. Um, Sometimes they're the best kind of ideas, or there's almost like a happy accident.
Hmm. And how long do you engage usually with such space, or in that space? How long can your engagement? What is the capacity that you can? Are you there for hours, minutes?
I mean, it really depends, and it really depends like what the not the purpose, but like um how much time I have, what else is happening, what I'm kind of going for with that. I mean, at the moment in my life, most of the time when I'm drawing and designing, it's just for fun. So it's like whenever I have time.
Mm.
Because I used to own a clothing brand, but it closed during COVID. And I haven't currently got that like ding 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 full body yes idea to another brand yet. Or to another kind of design or way I'm going to do that yet. So it's kind of more, I've actually had a couple of years of giving myself permission to create just for the sake of it. Like I actually throw things away. Like I go to life drawing classes where I'll draw a figure and throw the drawing away at the end, because then you don't have the pressure of it being good. It's just you created it at the time, and then you don't need to judge it. It just is what it is. I don't necessarily need to keep it as some kind of shrine either. It's just there. It was just a
Yeah.
moment, and then you let go of it. So yeah, I really
Mm.
think it depends on what the purpose is for someone, what they're creating. I really find that creative people, we don't respond overly well to having, now you're going to sit at your desk and you're going to create this life-changing thing. It's
Mm.
just pressure doesn't really make us do a good job often. However, sometimes structure does, which
Mm.
is something that people find kind of counterintuitive. Like you think that structure would make you less creative, but actually it's having like a slight boundary to what you're doing sometimes enables you to be better. So sometimes I'll give myself like a specific amount of time to do something, or sometimes it's I have a deadline for something. Sometimes that helps because yeah, for me that really helps me anyway.
I love that. And I also love that you're so free flowing. And I think really like I sense it that the energy also needs space, it needs time, and it needs its own, it likes to take space, to shrink, to fold, to mold, to form, and to change. And it's almost like if you are okay as a creator of not knowing what you're doing, not knowing where you're going, or not knowing how it's going to be, then she can come and drop in and expresses itself through you, and you can just be a hand for it. I like your
Yeah.
flow. I like how you're going in and out from it and in it, and you're just like, okay, this is almost not mine. Boom.
Yeah. That's where I find like having things on the wall really helps, because then if it's an idea that's maybe a bit more not like to draw this one thing or paint this one thing, but more something that takes a bit of time to build, that's where I like just writing words on a piece of paper and sticking them on the wall, or drawing little doodles and then sticking that on the wall. And then like over time you walk past it and then you think about and then you leave and then you come back and then you're like, this is where that comes together, and then it starts to kind of build. But I think that for any creative that's listening of any kind, like I think that your life will really transform when you stop trying to control it.
Yeah. The emotional safety requires two things: no agenda and no judgment.
Yes.
And to have no agenda, automatically you don't feel contracted. You actually relax. And it does this thing to the body where you can actually feel the life in a different way, what you said. And if there is a grip and control in it, then it's really hard to surrender to what life can be and the potentiality and possibilities of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're trying to control the situation, you're kind of almost saying that there's a limit to what can happen here. Whereas if you have a good amount of surrender, and by surrender, I don't mean like it's not apathy, you're still doing things, but you're just surrendering the things necessarily working out exactly as they are in your head. And then the potential to create something even better or even cooler or even way different than what you had in mind, but could be have more impact in the world, who knows. And that's, yeah, it's just a much nicer space to create from than this sort of lack-minded, got to be exactly as in my head. Because something that I've noticed through working with creators and through my own head is that the idea in your mind will never be exactly what comes out in front of you, because
Mm-hmm.
the idea in your mind is a future projection. So you're kind of always a little bit behind what is in your head, because your talent needs, or your craft takes time to catch up to that, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And it should do as well. And that doesn't mean that it's not valid or good enough. That just means that your visionary mind is continuously trying to allow you to improve, or showing you the potential that you have. And it's your job then to slowly nurture, like, present version you towards that space. But people that want to buy your work or buy into what you create or buy into your vision don't know what's in your head. So they don't know the possibility that you have. They only see what's in front of them, and that they think that, that will be the coolest thing they've ever seen, but they have no idea what's yet to come, you know? If that makes
Mm-hmm.
any sense.
Oh, it totally makes sense. And you're saying, and it's your job to do something about it and also stay with it. What makes you stay with it?
I think that it's um, joy, curiosity, passion for what you're creating, and the for making things. And if you are somebody that channels a lot of your creative energy into one specific medium, it's like constant refinement of that, and the excitement that learning something new about that exact thing could bring. It's really just passion and joy, and letting go of the pressure for this to it to all be the next life-changing thing, or for it
Mm,
to be exactly what it is in your mind, as I said.
that is so key. And I find it that we set really unrealistic goals to ourselves to save the world, as if we know 8 billion people all at once and they're all our friends. And we happen to be, there's this twist that happens in the psychological tendencies because we're exposed to the world and to get to anything we want in a split second. There's a perception that we are showing up to the world in a sense of, I must be good or I must be valid, almost like valid to show up. There's so much psychologically that happens before we even start, before we even, I think those are all resistances that show up as obstacles for us to even relax into the moment in a private chamber of just simply our body and our temple and our mind to feel what possibly can be. And it doesn't need to get to a sense of saving the world and sending us someplace else. And I think this thinking that we are in a collective feeling that we have to contribute. There's a sense of contribution, but also it has to be for large masses of people. It's or world at large is frightening to the system. It's like it's impossible for the system to maintain and be almost surviving such a vastness of the world and that many souls and critics and different minds. It's almost like it stops right away, the potential to create creativity to even come in and visit you, because you really have to prepare yourself to just handle yourself and in many ways handle your states. So I'm curious with this, and have you noticed your progress in enlarging and almost slowly building your capacity to handle the space that such essence can take on inside of you? So, did your capacity throughout the last years grow inside of you to handle it more steadily, to be ready to take whatever that shows up? And do you see your progress inside?
That's really interesting, because it's so funny. There's something in the air, because I was actually thinking about this morning, and then I was recording for my podcast and this came up on that, and now it's coming up again today. That is
Of
so
course.
weird. I would say that if I'm going to go through in a few like points on this, and that is that I've noticed a lot over the last few years, creatives putting a lot of pressure on themselves to like have this big huge change the world kind of impact, and I had that with my last business as well. And um that's really noble and really cool to desire that, and for that to be your quote unquote why. I think it's a really great thing, but I think sometimes creatives specifically have that desire because they feel like just being an artist isn't enough. You know, if you want to save the world, then it makes it more of a quote unquote real job, right?
Mm,
When actually, as an artist or as a creator of any kind, you can create something that will totally change someone's life without even trying to change their life. You could create a painting that like fully calms someone down when they're going through like a absolute anxious spiral, and you can't control that impact from happening. Are you changing like the full world? It won't feel like that, but you are. And that is completely valid and enough. And then for me, I think like I had that kind of awareness or intention with my last business. It was like a sustainable yoga clothing company. And I was really hell bent on being as ethical and sustainable as I could be. I started working with a factory that employed women of trafficking to create the clothes. I was trying to do everything like so consciously. And that put a lot of pressure on me to then be some kind of perfect, highly conscious human being. And I found that pressure quite limiting, actually. And I'm not
mm,
saying that that company and the intentions that I had were bad. That's not at all. I'm super proud of what I did. And I was still super sad that I had to close during COVID. But at the same time, coming out of that, um, super burnt out. um, kind of
mm-hmm,
made me realize that as creators, we actually need two whys. You know, everyone always says like start with why to what you're doing, and I think as creators, or even anyone, but I would say a lot of creatives that are very heart led and really want to make a change and really want to, they feel the maybe pain or feel of um the darkness in the world, and they want to do something to shed beauty and light. That's really what we're here for. Is that you also need, you can have that as your why behind what you're doing, but you also need something that I call the like unapologetically selfish why. And that is just because you want to create that, you want to live a life where you get to create all day just because that makes you feel the most yourself,
mm,
just because you want to be able to provide a comfortable, even massively abundant life for yourself and your family from the thing that you love the most. That's not
mm,
selfish.
mm.
It's kind of an unapologetic, just allowing yourself to be your whole self, why behind what you're doing, and then being able to create from that space and potentially impact people whose names you'll never know. That's so exciting to me.
Yeah. And what you just explained, how I received it, was just be you and find the way that works the best for you. And what you just almost gave, almost like, hey, I don't need one why, I need two. And then if somebody comes in and says, I need four, if anything, then that will be your way. And I think we are opening ourselves up to really that self acceptance of, but this is what works for me. And this is actually what gives me the stimuli enough to go for it, wake up with the passion about it, to not worry, to put my body into the regulative state that I can receive, to try to fail, to be okay with that, to be supported in a basic needs of survival, actually. So a lot of this is invitation to be and to actually come back to relating to yourself and to find out what it is that you need to support your almost evolution. And I'll add 10 steps ahead of the time for this. It's like to create something from nothing adds a little block on your own conscious evolution, which means is that you're now more aware and you are more aware of your own reality and how powerful this reality of creative sits inside of you because you try something. And for me to try something and be a full tarot card, right? To be the number one, zero, that wants to enter into this space of unknown, I must be out of my mind in a complete trust of something that I can't comprehend. And I have to take that slow step into it and feel how that feels like and freak myself out and also pat myself on the back when everything is over and completed. But I must try. And the invitation here, how I hear you, is like just find your own way. No matter what it works, it's never going to be like my way. It's going to be your own unique way.
Yeah, and I think like let go of the pressure for it to be, well, there's kind of twofold to what I'm trying to say is like let go of the pressure for that you have to try and prove that this is a real job or that what you're doing is a real like adult thing. um and also trusting if you do have the vision in your head of the life that you're envisioning is, you know, on the big stage or creating and doing big shows or living a life where you get to create all day and have a business surrounding that or something, really trusting that vision and trusting that intuition and allowing that and allowing the slow process to get there to take however long it needs to take.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, in the meantime, life happens
Mm-hmm.
and the clock is ticking. We're getting more mature, more complex. Our seasons change, our tonality, our sound, our color in life in general, expressing ourselves through life changes. Do you feel the art with it changes too, through us changing in our own seasons?
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely because like if we're talking earlier about authentic expression, whatever's authentic will change throughout your life and throughout time and throughout whatever you experience. Now, I think we are like sponges and we sponge in the whatever happens to us or whatever we see in the surroundings. And in within that sponge is also everything that we've like been through maybe within life. And then over time, the little cocktails of those things will become the things that you create. But whatever's authentic to you at any point in your life will be different.
Mm. Have you, which also changes the tone and texture of your own creation. And if I were to ask you, what is your color of creative right now? What would that be?
Oh, um,
Or a tone or an
I
instrument?
I really don't know, and I'm not sure how to answer that question just because I feel like what I'm creating at the moment is going in a lot of different ways. So I'm really not sure if I could give it just one color.
Mm.
And it's like different areas of my life and different things that I create. You know, I have my podcast, I have my online platform that I share different kind of classes on, and I have other things, and it's just other things that I create and things that I do just for fun, like I was talking about with drawing or fashion designing and things. So it's like a lot of different stuff that has actually, they're all authentic expressions of me, but in very different ways. So I'm not sure I can give one color becomes some
I love it
it
so
would
much.
be some kind of rainbow with a little bit of black and white because I like monochrome in there as well.
I saw your style too, and I was like, oh, that's similar to mine too. Yeah, I was about to say rainbow. And how does it feel? The richness, you said you have all these different points, almost different connections with it. And I assume, I can only assume that the relationship to these parts of you and the love and the time and the exchange is also very different. So, does the love differ to each part of you, what you're creating right
um
now?
no, it doesn't actually. I think for a long time I have kind of, I think if you're doing things just for fun then this won't really apply, but when you're trying to put yourself out into the world in terms of like what you're creating as a business, um I had a long time where I felt like that wasn't totally clicking in the way that it made sense. And not, I'm not
Mm,
saying that that making sense made control, but I just feel like it didn't flow together in the way that I wanted it to. that's kind of more what I'm trying to say than making sense. It didn't flow together. Whereas now I feel like it does. So it's kind of just an ecosystem that all works together, but in different ways. And what I put out in terms of my business, I love the same, or I love the same as the stuff when I just do a doodle on a piece of paper, or when I go to live drawing class and throw my drawings away at the end. I tried to
Yeah.
put the same in, because they all serve a purpose, and they all kind of bring out different parts of myself. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and I can relate to that too. And I think this is exactly how it starts. It starts as nothing, and then it almost kind of spreads itself in many petals. And then it's now a new form, and one without the other wouldn't make sense. It becomes so complex in nature, and yet there's this underlying tonality and color. In this case, it's almost like, but what is underneath it all that holds it all? And
Mm.
this is where, in my case, I'm like, oh, but there's this sense of I like to call it the essence of merge. Like I'm almost aiming and yearning to get merged with something that it's outside of my comprehension. I'm almost yearning for it. Like and it has the essence of love unexplained, more poetic way of romantic expression of something that comes right underneath it to hold it. And on behalf of that, then this makes sense and this makes sense and this makes sense and this makes sense, rather than this is my whole business and I'm going to create and I will just get blocked because I have no idea how to put all these things together. So it literally comes from some seed that clicks for you, like you said, and it takes a long time to try and fail and try and fail and find it and find it. So tell us a little bit about your trials and errors before you got to this click out of which everything was created.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it kind of everything made sense when I was teaching yoga all around London, and I had my yoga clothing company, and I used to be a fashion designer. That all kind of flowed together, and it kind of all quote unquote made sense. Then when that business ended, I had never felt so directionless in my whole life. That was also during COVID, so I wasn't able to teach yoga in studios and things at the time either. I had never felt so directionless in my life, and I also then had the realization that I was putting a lot of my identity on my work, which is
Mm-hmm.
not the best idea, or on the business that I had, and also being the kind of yoga teacher that was teaching in the biggest studio in Europe at the time. Um, and it took me a long time to figure out what I was going to do next. I mean, I'd kind of at the end of that business started to get a bit of a pulling towards coaching, but I then wasn't sure how. I kind of had, when I was closing that business, I had this idea or this phrase come into my mind, which was bank this experience. Those were the exact words that came into my head. So it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, it took me a long time to figure out what that meant. And it was to take all that I'd learned from having that experience of running that business, everything that I did right, everything that I did wrong, or maybe I could have done better, or everything that I learned from, to help other creatives master their mind and be able to create without getting burnt out, and to continue to trust their process and believe in what they're doing. Took me a long time to figure that out. And I tried, different things that never really, I guess it's coming back to that like full body yes idea that I never really felt like sat totally right within me, and also didn't feel like totally myself when I put it out there. Empowerment coaching. I had danced with like business coaching. I was like, this doesn't really feel totally like me, or exactly what I was wanting to do. And then that's when I had that kind of random, and I'm not going to lie, that took probably 2 years to then come up with the idea of what then did feel like me. And that was when I got the idea for Maverick Mind, which is my podcast. And it was going to be podcast and coaching all underneath that name. It's now expanded into my own name, and then Maverick Mind's just the podcast. And that was where I got that like, oh my gosh, that now all makes sense. Because at some point
Yeah.
during that messy middle point where I had
Mm,
no clue what I was doing or where I was going, I kind of realized that I'd left my creative self behind a little bit.
mm,
That, I'd built a life where I was teaching yoga and I owned this yoga clothing company. I was wearing yoga clothes all the time. I was walking around in yoga pants all day and like wasn't like connecting to fashion in the way that I had before.
mm,
Um, and then I kind of slowly realized that and slowly realized I haven't drawn anything in a while just for the sake of it, or I haven't done this for a while just for the sake of it. And it comes from then being a bit more playful and playing with creativity, both my self-expression and what I was creating as well. That then um, I slowly kind of came back to who I am in a new way. And then that's when I was listening to a podcast. Um, it was an interview between Zane Lowe and the English rapper called Stormzy. You know, yeah.
mhm.
Well, yeah, I love Stormzy. He's great, and I love Zane Lowe. And he was talking about the inspiration behind like an album that he'd just written. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I love. I love to be with somebody in their creative process and kind of draw out what they're really trying to say through their work. And I really love to guide that person through the surrender that they need to tap into to really get there to that really authentic expression of what they're trying to say. And then the excitement of sharing that with the world. That was my like ding ding ding, woo, this is it thing.
Mhm.
And then again for a long time I had that, and then I was also teaching yoga, and I was like, what's the it feels like two separate worlds, two separate lives I'm living in. And then it was only really when I brought the two together into my online platform Ember, which is kind of like a well-being, well-doing space for creatives, then I was like, now it all makes sense. Like I knew it
Mm.
made sense, or it kind of clicked together in my mind. I just didn't feel like the what was coming out was flowing together is as well. But I feel like now I'm like, now it seems to harmonize. Yeah.
Yeah. And now it seems to all make sense. And this was years later. And you're
Years
talking
later.
years later of not giving up to something that you didn't know of and almost having utter trust in unknown and
Yeah. I mean,
keep it
altogether, that's taken like 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many creatives you meet in life that have the same exact like almost it's not that it's not you're this like maybe this, but no, not really. Maybe I tried this and you call yourself many names and none of it clicks. And, and you try it and then you feel it and you embody it and then you play with it and it's not that. And then you wake up with another idea and then you keep coming back. All of this keep coming back to me is so almost like I always like to feel that some invisible force is just pushing me, nudging me like this from behind. And I can feel it. I can see it. I'm not frustrated. I love it. It's a little bit of a kinky side that comes in and says, oh, again. So you kind of have this like mixture of pain and love and agony and ecstasy and coming in together to kind of almost like, ooh, direct you into the life. I have a very acute feeling of it that that's the path. I don't know where it's going. It's not paved and I'm not afraid. That's all I need to know. And next I go and I take a step and whatever and however it takes, it's actually it might even take forever, but there's no purpose for it. I am not saving the world. I'm very clear on that. Rather than I'm enriching something in me and I'm discovering this part. And while I do that, I have fun. I'm laughing at it because it's funny. It comes shockingly funny for a lot of times. And I am very willing to entertain it. And this all happens most of the time internally in this internal world of yes, no, yes, why, come on, maybe no, true, untrue, questionable. And it's all this play as long as you're willing to entertain it and willing to just check it out and leave it to its own time and space and allow some time, at least 5 minutes a day for it.
Yeah, definitely. Just to kind of see what's going on inside you and then also feel in your body of what does feel right and what doesn't. And I can see from a mile off now when somebody is there or when they're not quite there, you know, when they're like still creating from the head or when they're creating from the heart, when they're creating from should, or
Yeah.
when they're just playing around and seeing what they're going to get to. Even then, it feels there's a different feeling and a different kind of energy or texture to what they're putting out or the way they walk through life. I can see it from a mile off now.
Yeah, because you kind of went through the agony of it. It's actually,
Yeah.
you see
Yeah.
agony of someone really wanting something, not knowing how to, and yet not giving up because it's love in making. You're almost
Yeah.
making love to something that you don't even know what is doing to you, and you really are that crazy.
Yeah.
But Ellie, I'm curious, and I know we're running out of time, but I want to kind of just ask you maybe two more questions. Co Constructive criticism versus supportive criticism in on your journey to find yourself, to find your signature, to find your note, to find your color, and to actually feel home, to feel that you belong to this, that this flower is your birthright, to create it, to nurture it. So, how would you how would you advise nowadays in the modern times whenever, there's a lot of criticism coming our way? How would you advise upcoming creators to receive and seek creative criticism? Do you think it's helpful versus actual supportive criticism? Or, I'm sorry, the feedback that it's more like corrective criticism versus supportive criticism.
Um, I think that it is helpful along your journey. I think that we have to be discerning over whatever feedback we get, good or not so good, constructive or not so constructive. Put everything through the filter of what feels okay to you. You can kind of be honest, be radically honest with yourself and think, is there some truth into what they're saying? And you'd be like, yes, actually, there is a little bit of truth there. Or sometimes it can just be like that they just said that to try and assert their power, you know? Because I think with creatives, like, I'll give an example. When I was at university studying fashion design, the first 2 years were like cool. It was good fun and like everything was, we got like good criticism, trying to make us grow, whatever. As soon as we got to our final year, they went into like some kind of boot camp mentality of trying to quote unquote toughen us up for the industry, which is a load of rubbish, in my opinion. And they would say, like, my teachers would say things that were kind of just cutting and mean for no apparent reason
Mhm.
to try and like give us this harder shell for the industry, they thought, or to try and draw out better ideas, they thought, which I don't think actually really worked. And I remember being in this critique, we had like we were designing, like we had to design a collection for our final project at the end of the university thing. And we were in a group of, I think, I can't remember, 4 or 5 of us with the main teacher, and we're all kind of going around and saying what we design and ideas that we come up with. And there was a girl, she was sat right on my left, and she showed all her ideas, and my teacher just like completely went in on her and told her like how bad all of the ideas were. And I could see that her sat there like on the bridge of crying, like and I just had this feeling in my chest of like, this is really not in any way helping helping to guide out what's really within her. This is just tearing her down for the sake of it. And a couple of weeks before that, we had just got back from summer holidays, and we had like a summer project, and we had to go around the whole class and show us what we did for the summer project. And I remember hers, and she had this like really cool idea to have this like cut out bits in the clothes and like cool areas. And while she was sat there, and the second one, when he was like really tearing her down, um And she was looking like she was about to cry. And I was like, hey, wasn't it you who did that cool idea with your summer project? And she was like, yeah, that was me. I was like, well, you should do that. That was like really cool. And my teacher looked at me like I just undermined him or something. And
Mm.
then like piggybacked off what I just said of like trying to make it his own idea. And I was like, this is like the dark side of what feedback, quote unquote, can be within creative industries. It's like, are they giving you feedback from a space of ego and power and just
Mm.
to say that they're better than you? Or are they doing something that's actually going to help bring out a better version of you? Because that can be totally transformative for a creative because we spend so much time alone in our own heads. For somebody to spot your blind spot and actually say, do you know what? You could do this and it will be really cool, or you could do that and it'll be better. That is like night and day and something that we should definitely listen to. But then there are people you will meet along your path that will just try and give you feedback to make themselves feel better. And for that, you do have to have um, the discernment and trust within yourself to say, like, actually, I'm not going to take any of that on. Yeah.
Yeah. True, untrue, questionable.
Yeah.
I always like to say I have this circle, and in our energetic, you would probably also know this as well. There's like a diameter of 12 feet away of our energy radiating. That's kind of quiet a long time, but I like to draw a circle around me. And in this circle of me, I will have a sense, and I will need to learn this sense of me, this language of what is true to me. Where does it feel being truthful? What is untrue? And just leave it outside the radiance. And what I will be curious to question and analyze and confirm. And these three ways of determining, it's almost like, oh, I can do me in my radiance, right? So it's almost like my circle is this big, and for you to come, you probably have your own circle. If I can support you in any way, you will ask me the question. I will not give you unsolicited advice. And if you
Mm.
need my support, or you find that our energies can blend in almost to be in supportive ways, there the criticism or a feedback yet or some sort of correction comes very soothing. Actually, it doesn't come as the closure. It's not contracting. It's rather curiosity, invites the curiosity to question.
Mm.
Maybe it is you're right, and let me see. And it's very, very open rather than actually your entire body contracting into something that came from someone else's mind rather than the heart. So very, very important to discern, as you said, when we are daring to create and daring to meet our superpower.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. And that comes back to understanding yourself and understanding or feeling into your body more as well to discern those signals. Because if
Yeah.
you're really listening to your body and how your body is reacting on a somatic level, you'll notice, oh, actually, that doesn't sit well.
Mm.
Or that
Hmm.
actually somebody can give you a feedback or criticism that actually inspires you more. And then you're like, oh, that's like actually a really exciting thing. It takes me in a new way. And then you start to visualize and say, oh, that actually does make what I'm creating better instead of it being this kind of heavy, tight, shame driven kind of feeling.
Hmm. Which is in its nature co-creative. So we now
Mm.
get to exchange and create together, which becomes even more powerful because now it's two of us with two
Ooh.
superpowers. Oh my God, Ellie, would you believe the 1 hour just flew by like that?
Yeah, I know.
Thank you so much. And for just the last couple of minutes, if you want to just share, where can people find you? Where can they connect with you on social media? And share a little bit about what you offer, so that way they can see what to expect from you.
Yeah, sure. So the best place to find me would be on my personal Instagram, which is Ellie Foden. You can find my podcast, which is Maverick Mind. Um, and on my personal page, there'll be links also to my online platform, which is called Ember, which is sharing loads of different kinds of tools for regulation and kind of opening the body towards receiving this creative energy and regulating our emotions and things like that. Um, yeah, so that'd be the best place to find me. That's also the best place to find info about coaching as well.
Yes. Ellie, thank you, thank you, thank you. This was lovely. Much appreciated.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank you
so
very
much.
much for having me.
All right, we'll talk soon. Ciao.